So I thought you might like to see how this comes together. So this is part of the wood. I bought 2 blanks in case I screw up, but I cut that at 30 degrees. This is the blue resin. Here's some more. And this is a Dr. Pepper can that I've sanded down that I will place on each side of this to have a little metal detail. And then that'll go like that. And then I'm gonna do another angle at 45 degrees and then one more at 60 degrees. And we'll see how it goes. So stay tuned. Well, here's where I am with it right now. So you can see how that, more in the light. So again, Dr. Pepper can, the blue Dr. Pepper can, you see it smoking, that's the epoxy heating up. And so, yeah, I know it's hard to figure out what that's gonna look like when it's done, but it should look good. Okay, so right here I'm drilling the hole through the center of the blank and praying that it doesn't split out, because when things go wrong, this is where they typically go wrong. So pray. Well, it made it through the drilling process. That doesn't mean that things still can't go south, but we're coming along. I'm going to epoxy the inside of the hole so that the brass tube adheres in there better. But gonna let this dry for a bit before I put it on the lathe actually. But so far so good. All right, so this is it in the lathe. I'm going to spin up the lathe and I'm gonna speed it way up. And we will see what happens. How it's starting to look here. It's got a long way to go, but you get the idea. All right, here's where it is at this particular moment. I don't like that little gap right there that nobody in the world will ever notice. We'll see how it looks whenever I get done. It's looking good so far. I think it'll be nice. And again, if you don't like it, I've got another blank. I can make you something else, but I thought this was pretty cool. Anyway, let's see what happens next. All right, let's put a little denatured alcohol on it to kind of see what it's going to look like here. It's just to clean off all the dust and stuff. All right, so here's where we are with it. I filled in the little gaps. And the gaps, I mean, it's not a gap, it's filled with resin, so there's no way it's ever going to come apart. But you can see it, so it'll go. The pen basically shows the, well, I'll explain it to you what I did and why I did it in just a second. But it'll make sense why I chose this design. So let me do some more sanding and put some finish coats on it. All right, so here's something you did not know. The finish on these is actually made from super glue. So this is a coat of thin. I'll put about 4 or 5 coats of thin on it, and then I will put some medium on it. 4 or 5 coats of medium, and then 1 more final coat of thin. And then we sand all the way down to about 15,000 grit sandpaper. It'll be a while. So there's our first coat. Let me show you what this looks like. And you can see that this will smoke. Can you see that smoking? That's what happens when super glue gets hot, it boils. But you can see, let me set this over here. Where are we? There we are. So there you go. There's the first coat. And yeah, there'll probably be 11, 15, enough coats until I decide that it's perfect. So it'll be a while. All right, so there are a few coats on it. And you can kind of see, it's not quite as, that's more like the real color. The light is making it look a little bit brighter than it is. Here, maybe back up. There you go. So you can see what it's starting to look like. It's not quite that bright. It's a little bit darker than it looks. The wood is, but it's coming along. All right, so now I've got, I don't know how many coats on it, a bunch. But what I do is I take a piece of sandpaper and I wet it. Let me spin it this way first. And I will hit it with some really fine, this is 600 grit. I will make sure that it's perfect, which it feels pretty perfect. Dry it off. And then I will put some denatured alcohol on it again. And if you're wondering why I've got tape on my fingers, because if you saw that super glue boiling earlier, it will burn the crap out of your fingers if you are not careful. So the tape protects my fingers a little bit. So you can see where we are now with it. And I will put some more coats on it, but it's really, really smooth, but we'll keep going. All right, several more coats later. You can see it's still coming along. And we will, I don't know, maybe 3, 4 more coats. It's probably got 11 or 12 coats on it right now. But stay tuned. All right, here's where it is. This is after, I don't know, 15, 16 coats. So what happens now is each of these is a grit of sandpaper. So this one, and this one's finer than this one, and this one's finer than that one. And by the time you get to this last one, you hear me rubbing on it. You can barely hear it, but listen to this first one. So this has this one, I don't know, it's probably 1,000 grit, and that's 15,000 grit. And what I will do is I will dunk all of that in water, and then I will sand all the way down, all through all 9 of these, and you'll see what happens to the finish. And then here's the last one. And hopefully you can see how shiny it is now. And it doesn't show up real well in this light, but trust me, it's very, very shiny. And now I will put some scratch remover on it, which is this. So any remaining scratches will come out. All right, and then we will spin the lathe up. Just like shining shoes. All right, now we will use yet another scratch remover as soon as I find it. Okay, I found it. Ultra gloss. So we'll put some of this on. Back to this one. And just when you thought it was as shiny as it could possibly get, we now put a very, very thin coat of car wax on it. Yes, car wax. Now we spin it up again. Oh boy. Yeah, that's nice. All right, let's, we got one more thing to do. Now we do the car wax in reverse. And so we reverse the lathe and we put it on this way. So sometimes the scratches, if there are any scratches, they'll get lined up in one direction. So when you reverse the lathe, give it one last coat like this, it's perfect. And we'll spin it back the other way one last time. And there you go. That is nice. All right, so now what happens is I take all these various pieces and I put the pen together. So that goes in there. And I use this very large clamp with rubber ends there to kind of push it together. I have to make sure that it's perfectly aligned or it will not go on correctly. Getting close. There it goes. So there's one. Here comes another. Mhm. Okay, now I told you before, I told you why I would do this, why I chose this design. It's because the stock price or the company was flat, and then it gets better, and then it gets better and better. So if it's, think of it as a graph, flat and then more profits, more profits, more success. And so because of that, I'm gonna put, hang on, I'm gonna put this part, the nib, on down here. So when you're writing with it, you can see the stock price going up or whatever. But if you don't like that, this is an ambidextrous pen. It can go both ways. You can actually switch the ends. So if you prefer it the other way around, you can actually switch these two parts. So you can put this part on this end, and so you would actually be writing with this end, but I don't like that. I want it to be this way when you're writing with it. But if it's in your pocket, then it's upside down. But again, you want the success to be when you're writing with it. You also have a refillable one, which is fun. You can put your own ink in it, and then this is the ink cartridge that comes with it. What you do is you simply stab that into there, and it will begin writing. Or if you have your own ink, you push that into there if you fill this up with ink yourself. So let me get the cap out. I'm not gonna engage the ink yet though. I'm gonna let you do that. So there won't be any ink in it when you first get it. All right, here's the cap. And voila. So this is it. Let me do it this way. So here it is. Yeah, that's really, I wish the lighting was better in here. Oh, here we go. Yeah, you can kind of see here. So again, when you're writing with it, the stock goes up. And this cap is magnetic too, so listen. See how it stays on there? You can switch sides. Like that. So when you're writing with it, your stock goes up. And that's your pen. I'll go take a few glamour shots in my little pen studio. And here it is inside of the little glamour shot booth. And I hope you like it. And if you don't, I will make something else.